That sandstone boulder you just saw marks the crash site of United Flight 93. Hello everyone, I'm Lynn Doyle, and on this 10-year anniversary of September 11th, we're here to honor those brave souls who now bear silent witness high in the hills of Southwest Pennsylvania. Let's start by looking at the chain of events that gave the passengers of Flight 93 that short window of opportunity to fight back against their hijackers. For some, it was business. For others, travel. And some were taking the early nonstop flight to San Francisco just to head home. They left Newark Airport through Gate 17. But a few minutes after their delayed takeoff, America was under attack. Hijackers crashed Flight 11 into the World Trade Center's North Tower. Moments later, terrorists steer Flight 175 into the South Tower. The horror was far from over. Flight 77, departing from Dulles Airport, exploded into the Pentagon. Unbeknownst to most Americans, just 10 minutes earlier, hijackers had seized control of United Flight 93. Through a flurry of cell phone conversations, passengers and crew became aware of the other attacks. And in the course of just 1/2 hour, they organized a counter-revolt, charging into the cockpit at 9:57 a.m. Meanwhile, back down on the ground, Linda Shepley, who had just heard the news of the other attacks, had gone outside to continue her chores.
As I was hanging clothes up, I heard a noise like a truck going over a bridge, and it was up over my left shoulder, and I looked up and I saw the plane and its wings went back and forth, and I thought, I know they downed all the planes, but this is unusual for this one, to be out here. And I knew it was huge because we have little planes that fly at the airport here at Frieden's, and this was a huge one because I could see the engines on the wings and the size of it, and I saw it coming over, and as it was coming over, it started to come down a little, and all of a sudden the plane veered to the right, and I thought, no, it can't be going to Frieden's. It's too big. They'll have an accident up there. And then just that quick, it went nosedived into the ground, and I was just shocked.
Linda is one of only a handful of eyewitnesses to see Flight 93 for an extended period of time. Other witnesses shared similar accounts with WJAC TV reporters.
It rolled completely upside down, and then it just kept going that way over towards the tree line, and then that's when I lost sight of it.
What made you realize that there was something wrong? Was it the height of the plane?
The height of the plane, and as slow as it looked like it was going, and the way it was wobbling back and forth at first.
All of a sudden, it just took like a sharp right curve and just went straight down over the bank over here, and I saw smoke, and that was it.
Yeah, it was nose first straight into the ground.
Was there an explosion?
As soon as it hit the ground, it exploded, like a big mushroom cloud.
Linda and her husband were especially concerned because the plane went down right where their son was working.
So we jumped in the car, my husband and I, and we even beat the fire trucks up there. We, went as fast as we could. We got up there, and we went into Rolock Road, and he was standing there, my son, and he was directing traffic because the fire trucks were starting to come in.
A rare turn of events that allowed her family to bear witness to the last moments of Flight 93.
And the strange thing is when I saw it go down behind the trees over there, what my eyes missed, my son's picked up. He saw it hit the ground. And he's a little bit hesitant to talk about it. He's just shaken up still to this day. He said that when it came in, the engines were just screaming so loud. And he said it hit the ground intact, and when it hit, it just exploded. It just disintegrated.
Along with firefighters, among those first to arrive on the scene were state troopers who weren't initially convinced of what happened.
It just looked like, from the ground you couldn't really tell. It was just like a pile of dirt because you couldn't really get a visual of it until you got up above it. But once you got up above it, and I was in a helicopter, you could see in the center there was a round hole where the fuselage had gone in, and then you could see extending from that round hole where the two wings had gone in, and you could actually see an indentation where the tail fin had gone in.
Ground debris provided additional confirmation of Flight 93's identity. And as investigators continued to sift through the rubble, they uncovered the flight data recorders containing definitive proof of the terrorist's true intention.
We do know that they changed the autopilot so that the destination was Washington, D.C. And then we learned later through some of the trial transcripts that there was actually a conversation between Osama bin Laden and the planners of the attacks, and he favored targeting the White House, and they felt strongly that the Capitol should be the target. And part of the reason that the September 11th date was picked, we believe, is because both the House and the Senate were in session that day.
The decisive action by men and women on board Flight 93 to fight back secured their place in history, but it cost them their lives. They were only 20 minutes flying time from the Capitol. It's amazing that a group of virtual strangers under that kind of pressure were able to unite in the course of just a half an hour and spare the rest of the nation from further tragedy. We're going to speak to some family members and a friend from Flight 93 just a little later on. But first, I want to introduce you to journalist Amy Warden. She writes for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and her byline appears in newspapers around the country. She's been covering Flight 93 from the beginning and continues to do so today. Amy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Much has been made about the delay that Flight 93 experienced. What impact does that have on the larger context of September 11th?
Well, these were highly coordinated attacks, Lynn, and the hijackers had in mind that the planes would all take off from about the same time from Boston, from Washington, from Newark. As it turned out, there were delays at Newark Airport that morning. There was heavy traffic. It was a weekday. And instead of the usual 10 to 15 minute delay on the runway, they actually had about a 25-minute delay. So that pushed their takeoff time from 8:01 to about 8:42 when they finally left the ground. That was critical because the idea that these planes would all take off about the same time, they were intended to hit their targets roughly the same time. And the delay allowed one group of passengers on one plane to take a very different approach.
And they were able to take that different approach because they got word from the ground about the preceding attacks.
Right.
That actually gave them the impetus and the idea then to try to thwart the attack on Washington.
The hijackers allowed the passengers to make phone calls to their family and friends, and it was through those phone calls that they were able to gather, the critical information about what had happened and what their destination or destiny was.
How confident are we in knowing what really went on?
Yeah.
In that plane during that time?
Right. Well, there were no survivors, so we won't know exactly what happened, all of the details of every minute. But the flight recorder, the combination of the flight recorder and the conversations, the tapes and the memories of the people who had those conversations with the passengers provide a pretty good outline of what happened. You have a really good understanding of what happened, almost minute by minute, almost to the moment that they hit the ground.
Do we know specifically who did what on that plane and how they were